rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He stuck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
Oh, it's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and simulcast on ESPNU live from Los Angeles for our final day here. What a great show. An all-timer. Bill Simmons for an hour. Our last hour of the show. Coach K stopping by. All right, so I had a life-changing moment. I had a life-changing moment yesterday. Maybe just a radio-changing moment. You know I love football, and I've always got to have a quarterback to pick on. And, like in recent years, I don't know, I've been a little tough on the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, Andy Dalton.
Dalton stinks.
Yeah. I have not always been complimentary of Andy Dalton's career, let's say that.
He's a hack.
Yes, I can be a little harsh.
Andy Dalton's a boring water pistol.
Yeah, okay, I said it one time. One time, that's all I said it. You just kept the tape and keep playing it.
Yeah, red rifle, my arse.
So I ran into Andy Dalton last night at the Laker-Clipper game right before in the hotel lobby. He was with Carlos Dunlop. That guy's huge. And here's the thing. Andy Dalton's just too nice. I got to pick a new guy to pick on. He's just too nice a guy. And I'm not a mean person. I've got to find another quarterback to pick on. Because he couldn't have been nicer.
The old beige water pistol was at it again yesterday.
There's no more.
Andy Dalton's a Nissan Maxima.
Not a big fan. Come on. You know what? Have your fun.
He's a hack.
Enough!
Dalton stinks.
We're not playing any more Andy Dalton drops on the show.
Not a big fan.
It's over.
Andy Dalton's a Nissan Maxima.
This is it. It's over. We're not doing it anymore.
Andy Dalton's a boring water pistol.
Okay. Executive decision. I'm done with it.
Yeah, red rifle, my arse.
Okay. Enough. That's it.
Wait, is he a good quarterback now?
No, but he's too nice a human being, and I'm not a jerk. And he's nice, and he couldn't have been more pleasant, and he's married, and I'm sure he's faithful, and he's a good person, and I saw him, and he could not have been nicer.
The old beige water pistol was at it again yesterday.
He could not have been a nicer human being.
You don't rip nice people that aren't good at their jobs?
No, but I'm a human.
Of course you do. You do it every day.
I'm a human being, and I've gone a little overboard on banging on Andy Dalton. That's all I'm saying.
Hack.
I've said a few things I regret.
Did you apologize to him? What'd you say?
No, I didn't. I said, how are you? What are you in town for? Why are you here? And he's training with Tom
Why
Housen.
can't you win a playoff game? I'm sure you dropped that into, right?
No, it's just, no, it wasn't the moment. You just give me the next quarterback to pick on for 4 years.
I think it's Alex Smith. I think he's in trouble.
No, Alex Smith has won a lot of games, and I'm not picking on him either. He's nice. I'm not a big fan. It's not like Andy Dalton throat punched me. It's just, he wasn't physically intimidating. He's not like Ben Roethlisberger, who's like an oil derrick with a helmet. He's not gigantic. He's not Cam Newton. He's a wonderful guy, and I'm tired of being a jerk.
Andy Dalton's a Nissan Maxima.
Come on. I'm going to call the bosses. No more drops on Andy Dalton. We're
Dalton
done with
stinks.
Colin Cowherd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Well, if you've ever listened to my show, you know I like people who can adapt. And I say that. There's two ways to move through life. And you can adapt or you can be rigid. And Mike Krzyzewski, to me, is Bill Belichick. He is an Andy Reid in football. Kevin Sumlin in college football. He's an adapter. Chip Kelly, he's an adapter. And the one-and-done stuff, the rent-a-player stuff. Mike is joining us in the Herd on ESPN Radio. Let's go back, Mike. Let's go back to when players started like coming in and leaving quickly. And it takes all these coaches, yourself included, a little by surprise. Was there an epiphany, a player, a moment when you decided, hey, this is the new world. I've got to deal with this?
Well, it happened over a period of time. You know, when I've been in this a long time, so I'm coaching and kids to go out of high school. So you're recruiting Kobe Bryant, and we think he will come to Duke if he comes, but he's going to go to pro. And once he did that, I said, there are about 8 guys, 6, 8, 7, whatever. They're just going to go from high school, so let's not even get involved with them. Okay? But we never had to play against them. Then the one and done rule comes in, but we haven't recruited that type of guy, and so for a few years we've continued not to recruit them, but now we're playing against them.
That's right.
And I'm saying, let's not be idiots. There's got to be some kids out there who fit our profile, and then if they come for 1 year, that's fine. They might stay longer. But did they have the academics, the character, the basketball? Do they fit our profile? That doesn't mean they're not good kids if we couldn't recruit them. And we started, hey, let's do this. And it's like Kyrie was probably the biggest one to begin with, and then he got hurt, and we were never able to do it. And what we found, Colin, is that there are more, like this year's class. We had at least, I don't know if they'll all go pro. That'll be decided here in the next few days. But in Okafor and Winslow and Jones, they really like Duke. They like to go to school. They like to be a part of the academic community. And so it happened over a period of time. But I think the epiphany was getting, going out on the court and saying, why aren't we recruiting that guy?
Yeah. No, I think, listen, in the end, you're a talent accumulator. I was telling my wife last night, what's really amazing, and I look at one and dones as an opportunity. It's the opposite of parenting. Parenting, you and I as dads, fathers, with our daughters or sons, we have a life to teach lessons, right? Or at least 18 years, and they listen to us. One and dones, you get 8 months to really teach life and basketball lessons. And in a weird way, it is the opposite of parenting. But I look at it, Mike, for you, it hones your skills as a mentor. You don't have time to waste with these great players. Do you ever think about it in those terms? Yeah, in fact, we try to start the process earlier. In other words, if one of those kids or all of them commit early, then I try to develop an even deeper relationship with them during their senior year of high school. And so I know them better than I used to know my incoming freshmen who were going to stay for the whole time. And so we adjusted that way too. And to also talk right away to the kids who are coming back to develop relationships with them. Like Clint Cook had a good relationship with Tyus Jones before Tyus Jones ever came to school in July. Yeah. He knew him. He knew where he would fit. He was not. It wasn't like he was worried. That Tyus is coming in, I'm going to lose this. And you try to eliminate these doubts. So you do that earlier. And that's especially for this group, that worked out unbelievably well. So we were a tight group when they came in July. It was kind of crazy that could happen. Yeah. Were you offended at all when Bo Ryan talked about renting players? How did that land with you? Well, one, I love Bo. And I know as a coach that you're the first guy up there, and you lose. Look, I've lost national championship game, and I've been the loser, and it's not easy. Sometimes things they can take one line or a couple lines out without hearing the whole context of what you're talking about. The line rent a player is not a good line because you use one and done. Rent means it could mean that you're doing something illegal. And that's the only. I think there's a better choice of words for that. But to say, hey, I don't, we don't do the one and done in our program. Hey, that's your right. But also understand that everybody's doing it a little bit differently. Guys are accepting transfers more. A lot of guys are going after fifth-year transfers. Look, there's more than one way to run a business, and just appreciate the expertise
of all the people who are doing it in these ways.
Yeah, Penn State's got one uniform. Oregon has
Yeah,
413. They're just different
Right.
cultures.
Yeah.
You know Tim Duncan personally. You also watched him at Wake Forest. Some people are saying Okafor has a little Tim Duncan. I think he has remarkable hands. Just Tom Penn was just on, and Tom said he's got transcendent hands. I mean, do you see a little Duncan? Are we going crazy there? What do you see with Okafor potentially down the road?
Well, I think he's so much a developing player. You know, he's still really young, and obviously he's got talents that you can't teach, and those are hands, feet, and really an unbelievable kid. He will continue to have to develop an even greater work ethic because he's going to be playing against men, and a little bit more of being precise. And you remember, Tim stayed all 4 years.
Yes.
And again, I'm not building a case that Josh should stay and whatever, but I hope he goes into an environment that will teach and not just expect him to be proven already. You know, like continue. A good environment is like what Monty Williams has done with Anthony Davis. He has been a mentor, and Monty works with me with the U.S. team. He has been amazing with Anthony Davis, and Anthony has a relationship with him that is much deeper than player-coach, and that's the type of environment I would, not that I'm saying the Pelicans should get him, but that would help. That would help. Ja would help Towns. It would help. These guys are all very much developing, but Ja's going to be special. Ja's going to be special.
You know, do you ever – I mean, it's amazing. 5 championships. You've done it with seniors. You've done it now with dominating freshmen. The recruiting now is – you know, I've talked to Mark Few about this. It's a 12-month gig now in recruiting. College football is, you know, down to 5 or 6 months. It's 12 months for you. Do you ever get a glass of Pinot after a title? Do you go with your wife on vacation? Can you ever shut it off?
You can't completely shut it off nowadays, you know, because you know, in football you can have a guy for 3 years. So you're constantly chasing stars. And stars mean constant vigilance. And I do more now in recruiting than I ever have at Duke because you're always doing it. But look, I love what I do. I'll sneak times away. But you know, this is the life I live, and it's a good thing. One thing I do, I'm thinking of doing, and I wanted to get your advice on this.
Oh boy, here we go.
A lot of people like fantasy football, and the one quarterback that intrigues me is Andy Dalton.
Oh, come on. My staff set you up.
No. I mean, what do you mean set up? I would never try to do that with you.
I ran into him last night. I felt terrible. So I'm never going to criticize him. He is a wonderful human being, and I've been rough on him, and maybe I'll pick on Jay Cutler. I can't.
It was too easy. It was a layup for me, so I got an assist.
Well, congratulations to a guy I have so much respect for, not just because of the championships, but the way you adapt and grow and treat people. And, Mike, thank you so much again for coming on our show.
All right, Colin. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Now, you bet. Mike Krzyzewski, 5th title. He's an adapter, folks. That's how you do it. You just grow, and it never ends. You're never done doing homework. If you love the process will pay you back. See, you guys set him up with Andy Dalton. I mean, there you go.
The old beige water pistol was at it again yesterday.
We're not doing that anymore. We're done. I ran into Dalton last night at a hotel. He was so cordial and so sincere and so warm and generous with his time.
Yeah, red rifle my arse.
That's it. Done. I told you. We're done with that stuff. Never
Andy
again.
Dalton's a Nissan Maxima.
Nissan Maximas are dependable. They get terrific mileage.
He's a hack.
No, stop. No more.
Dalton stinks.
I'm not a big fan. All right, I got to take a break. I'm exhausted. My staff is wearing me out. They're heard on ESPN Radio.
The old beige water pistol was at it again yesterday.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Let's hear it for Bill Simmons, ladies and gentlemen. Look at Bill. Look at Bill.
Am I on TV?
You're on television, Bill. Awesome Bill Simmons in the crib. You look, you always look so vibrant and healthy out here. Look at you.
You think so?
Yeah, you always look tan.
That means a lot, Colin.
It does. You look very healthy. By the way, Mel Kiper.
I can turn off my phone.
So Mel Kiper's coming on. We're going to co-interview him.
We're going to co-interview Mel Kiper?
Because I was going to cancel it. I'm like, no, Bill'll be interesting. We're just going to both talk and go back and forth on our stuff.
Did you talk about how depressing the Lakers-Clippers game was?
So anyway.
It's sad, right? It's just a sad environment.
I told Tom Penn this, though.
Yeah.
I like watching Jeremy Lin play. Not everybody has to be a great player. I love Rodman.
He'll end up on the right team at some point in his life. Because he gets to the rim.
Yes.
Byron Scott is an abomination.
He's not a great
Him and Derek Fisher, there's been this game the whole year where you don't know if they're tanking or if they're just terrible at coaching. And I think the answer for both of them is they're terrible at coaching. And I think they've been able to hide it. Well, Byron has a plan. It's like, no, he's a bad coach. The things that he values are not things that matter in the NBA anymore.
What about Doc Rivers?
For what?
Well, I had a scout who I trust.
Okay. Are you baiting me right now?
No, okay. I'm not. I know your background.
Okay.
I'm not baiting you.
Okay.
Although it'd be good for numbers, podcast numbers. Now, I had a scout I trusted said people like Doc. He's a great guy, smart guy. But he goes, he's a little overvalued as an elite coach.
No question. His best 3 years, he had Tom Thibodeau as his assistant, who was the most overqualified assistant coach in the history of the league. I mean, he left there and he immediately went to Chicago, where year after year he wins 50 to 55 games.
And he has never
with bad luck. Every year they've had bad luck.
I know.
Last 4 years, bad luck, year after year after year.
Some of that's self-induced, though.
But he also had KG. He had Pierce. That year they won the title, they had Posey, they had P.J. Brown.
Veterans.
Just smart veterans who know what to do. I think Doc's a good coach. I wouldn't have given up a first-round pick for him. I thought the best thing he ever did was last spring just keeping the Clippers together when they had all the Sterling stuff. But I wouldn't say they're a great coach team. I mean, I have probably my 6, 7 best coaches in the league who I just think if you watch the games night after night, the guys who just stand out. He's not on that list.
Okay, what would you do with Steve Kerr as a coach? What's your early grade?
I'm voting for him for Coach of the Year. I think he's been spectacular.
Now, you're talking schematically?
Oh, yeah. One of the things you look for is their movement on offense. I always call it the clogged toilet offense. If you're running the clogged toilet offense, that's not working, which is basically like a guy dribbling at the top of the key. Watch how a team like New Orleans plays, unless they're running the pick and roll with Tyreek and Anthony. It's basically just guy dribbling and then trying to decide what to do. Oklahoma City is famous for that. Clogged toilet offense. Nobody's moving. People standing in spots. Everybody going one-on-one.
Waiting for Westbrook to create magic.
Right, and that's what Golden State was doing last year. It was all ISOs. And now this year you see the way they move off picks. Everybody's moving. The guys are always getting the ball in position to attack. He's been great. His coaching staff's great. From a chemistry standpoint, off the charts. I love the fact that they're still trying. I think it meant something to them to try to win 67, 68 games.
What do you make of David Blatt? So let's go to somebody. I love Phil Jackson, but it's a players' league. What about Blatt? Does he get credit for
absolutely
during the criticism?
Yeah,
having great confidence, and he was kind of a Teflon guy, new to this country, new to our sport. So do you like him?
I've liked what I've seen the last 40 games. I think they made some really smart trades. The Mozgov trade.
Yes.
Getting Shumpert and J.R. Smith for basically nothing other than Deion Waiters, who might not be good. I was one of the last people on Waiters Island, but
he didn't. Waiters didn't start from Syracuse.
Yeah, he might not be that good. And they were able to flip him. I think he was in such a tough spot where they were 19-20. LeBron was doing all the weird stuff he was doing on the sidelines where it was almost like he was ignoring him and brushing him off from time to time.
It was he was also
A lot of media pressure.
a lot of media pressure. LeBron was also not toying, but manipulating his young teammates.
Yeah, and it became clear after they made the trades that they just had the wrong guys. They had a lot of redundancy, right? They had a lot of ball-dominant guards. They had too many power forwards. They didn't have, the roster didn't fit.
Right.
And now it fits better. I'm still not 100% sold on them because I think they go one-on-one too much in the last 5-6 minutes in the playoffs. That gets easy to stop.
What do you make of Kevin Love? The NBA has a history. Guys like Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay makes nobody better. I mean, like Rudy Gay is just the classic, he scores, but I never think he makes a team better. What do we make of Kevin Love? How do you compartmentalize historically? What is he? What does he do well? Is he overstated?
So he might be hurt, which I think is a real thing, and this is something Windhorst, who I don't know if you've had Windhorst on lately, but Windhorst is convinced that his back is really bothering him, and that if he's playing back-to-backs, things like that, the second game, he just goes off a cliff. And he doesn't look like he's moving the same way. Now, at the same time, Zach Lowe and I were arguing about this on my Bill Don't Lie podcast that we just launched on Monday. Monday. It's every Monday, NBA Talk.
When you say it again, give it another plug.
Bill Don't Lie. We spun off the BS report for no reason at all.
Yeah.
But we were saying, I think they've turned him into Channing Frye. And Zach's point is that's actually good because if you have somebody who can rebound but then also play from 25 feet and space the floor, that's where you want to be in 2015. But it's like this guy averaged 15 rebounds a game one year. I want him near the basket. I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't think you can marginalize. Like Channing Frye, for the uninitiated here, was just a great shooter, a big who shoot.
Yeah, he's a guy who's going to score 13 points a game and get 4 rebounds, but he's able – the defense has to respect him.
But I argue this, that when you do that to Chris Bosh and you change his nature –
Yep.
Spoelstra went too far. And I'm not blaming him, but Bosh became so finesse. I think if you'd marginalize Kevin Love into becoming Channing Frye, there's an essence that he brings to that team. You're not using his talent. It'd be like saying, Bill, only right. Well, you do other things pretty well. Let's get more out of you.
I think what you're saying is those guys are overqualified for those roles.
Yes. Kevin Love's better than Channing Frye.
Well, and this is the reason why you could argue Kevin Love is leaving either way.
Oh, come on now.
So if they win the title, perfect time to leave. You won a title. Now I want to be the guy, basically the Darrelle Revis situation, right?
Yeah, but
a little bit. If they lose the title, whose fault is it? Oh, let's point fair. Oh, Kevin Love, it was your fault. I think either way, especially if he doesn't feel 100% physically, he's grabbing a big contract that has a 2-year out. So either Cleveland's giving that to him or somebody else is giving it to him.
That's interesting. So you think if there's a physical issue,
it's something he's worried about. Yeah. What if he has a herniated disc?
Where would he go?
I don't know. He could go anywhere. Hey, the craziest thing is how much his value has changed in the league. Like when I did my trade value column, I had him like 52nd as the most tradable asset in the league. Like this is a guy last summer. We were like, oh my God, the Warriors are crazy. Why won't they trade Klay Thompson and David Lee for Kevin Love? Now it'd be crazy to do that trade if you're the Warriors. There's no way you get to make that trade. Right. Klay Thompson has so much more value than Kevin Love. So I think he's got to rebuild a little bit of his value too. And during the playoffs, that's going to be one of the interesting. I think there's so many great subplots to this playoffs. And you look at Cleveland, they have like 4 of them right there, right? LeBron. Can he make it back to a 5th finals in a row?
Are you rooting for him?
I'm rooting for I just root for interesting stories. LeBron is interesting. Kyrie Irving being in the finals as a heat check guy who potentially could win the finals MVP if he got hot a couple times. That's interesting. Love, can he rebuild his value? That's interesting. David Blatt with the spotlight on him. That's there's just so many good subplots of those.
So I went to the game last night.
Yeah.
Off that with my wife. And so she comes down and Jeremy Lin makes a basket and she's like, "Oh, that was awesome." She cheered. And then Blake Griffin hits a basket, and she cheered. And I said, well, who are you rooting for? And my wife said, I'm just rooting for baskets.
Oh, that's interesting. That's kind of how I felt during Duke, the title game. I just didn't really care who won, and I was just interested to see who was going to kind of emerge. And then, I heard your show yesterday, and you made one of those basic points that sounds basic, but it's actually a good point. Sometimes in college hoops, the team that has the most good players just wins. And that was one of those games where it was like Duke just had 6 guys that were just really good.
And 2 NBA stars.
Yeah.
2 will be NBA stars.
Oh, stars. Winslow, to me, Mark Titus on Grantland has been making this case for a while, and I actually think I agree. I don't know why he's not the number 1 pick. Why are we so sold on Okafor and Towns as number 1 when look at what the NBA is right now? It's a perimeter league.
I know, but boy,
it's Curry, it's Harden, it's Westbrook. You go on, it's Durant. You going down the line. These are perimeter guys, except for Anthony Davis.
All right, we got to get to Mel Kiper next. I got to read a spot. So Mel Kiper, you and I will grill him for about 5 minutes. Then we'll go back to talk.
That's great. I look forward to that.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd podcast.
All right, Mel Kiper's joining us. He's back at the ranch. I'm here with Bill Simmons. So Mel, you're going to get the double barrel here from a real journalist and a blithering idiot on radio for me.
Which one's the idiot?
No, I know.
I thought I was the idiot.
No, you're a journalist.
I'll be a blithering idiot.
Okay. So, all right, Kiper, we're going to go back and forth on this, and this isn't going to be an interview. It's just guys talking football. Right. Pretend like we're not on the air. I'm going to start with this. Okay, there's all sorts of baggage out there, like Randy Gregory. I don't know that pot's addictive, so I don't care. He's a defensive player. I would worry if my quarterback or my center. But this thing about pot use, has it changed, Mel, among executives that it's getting legalized around this league and that pot's not – it's not this, this frightening, daunting report that a guy like Randy Gregory failed to test?
Well, what it is, guys, is a fact that when you can't maintain the proper weight and you don't take care of your body, how does that impact your durability and your ability to maximize all that talent that Randy Gregory has getting after the quarterback? So the last 2 of the 3 years, he's had injury issues. So you think about 1 year, when he went into this season, he had a high grade because of a dominant season at Nebraska. Prior to that, he had an injury, kept him out the whole year. This year, injury plagued. Obviously, 235 pounds doesn't cut it. You want him to maintain a weight over 240, and you certainly want him to show he can go from game 1 through a long NFL season at 100%. He has not shown that, as I said, 2 of the last 3 years. That's why I think instead of a top 5 pick, which he should be on talent, he goes somewhere in the middle of the first round, maybe New Orleans at 13.
Todd Gurley, can he fall to the Patriots at number 32? I'm very focused on this.
Bill, forget about it. I don't see Todd, and I would not take a running back. Holland knows my philosophy, and even McShay's on board with the philosophy of not drafting a running back in round 1. You never need to. You never had to. There was no reason to do it. Now, in terms of Gurley, you don't base the ratings on philosophy. You base them on ability. Todd Gurley should be a top 10 player if he was healthy. He's coming off an injury. That's why right now he's still in the top 25 big board. I think Cleveland at 19 could be a destination spot for Todd Gurley.
Belichick has the advantage of success, and because of that, he can take risks that other coaches can't. He can go for it in 4th down. He can do drafting things. Take the rugby player from Ohio State in the draft. There's a player that I know because I follow recruiting and I'm kind of a dork that way. Shaq Thompson was the best athlete on the West Coast 3 years ago. He goes to Washington. He was the best player as a freshman. He is positionless. I think my theory on this is because of Pete Carroll's success, he's one of those coaches now that can go and take a Shaq Thompson or a Belichick, that he's going to fall to the end of the first round and he's going to end up being a star in this league. What are you hearing about Shaq Thompson?
Second round's the consensus on Shaq. We've talked to him a lot. On the Daria Mel show, we've had him on twice. And this is a kid that could be a running back, could be an in-the-box safety like Dayon Buchanan at Arizona, that combo safety linebacker, or he could be a will. That's where he wants to play. He wants to be an outside linebacker in a 4-3 defense. And Levante David would be a comparison. Levante David had a tremendously productive career at Nebraska, a little undersized, fits a scheme, doesn't fit everybody, not a pass rusher. He goes in the second round. He's one of the best defensive players early on in his career with the Buccaneers. So I think Shaq Thompson, not late first, possibly, but more probably second round.
There's two NFL drafts going on at the same time. One is the guys who have the most value, that's like artificial value. It's usually quarterbacks.
Right.
Then there's like the sure thing guys. And every year in the draft, you just know, like, oh, well, that guy's going to be good. Like, why did he go 10th when he should have gone 3rd? I remember, like, there was one Earl Thomas year. I was like, really? Seattle's going to get Earl Thomas? Like, he's one of the best 5 guys in the draft. Mm-hmm. Who are the sure things for you this year? The guys that maybe they won't go 1st and 2nd, but you just know for a fact they're going to be really good.
Bill, I think that's a great question because it should go right and work hand in hand with your top player, and that's Leonard Williams from USC. And I think he's safe because he's got scheme versatility. But I'll go beyond that and just go to Amari Cooper, the wide receiver from Alabama. This is a kid who 3 years of production, Great workout, a 4.42 at nearly 6'1", 211 pounds.
Yeah.
Better three-cone and short shuttle than Kevin White, who had a great workout. But he's not a one-year wonder like Kevin White. He's a 3-year guy in the SEC. What I love about him is quick and fast and great work ethic. And Nick Saban raves about the passion and the due diligence that he does trying to prepare each year for the upcoming season. I think Amari Cooper, if he goes to Oakland, Derek Carr is going to love this kid immediately. It'll be a great pass-catch tandem. It'll propel Oakland maybe in the next couple of years into being a playoff-caliber team.
When I watched the bowl game this year, and it was Michigan State and Baylor. And Michigan State had a kid named Connor Cook. He's a solid quarterback. But Bryce Petty was so much better. And then I met Bryce Petty like 3 days later in Fort Worth. He was like in the ESPN food room. And he's a good-looking athlete, good-looking kid. There's certain people have it. And I keep thinking to myself, are we wildly overlooking? We're paying so much attention to Mariota and Jameis Winston. What do people say about Bryce Petty, the quarterback from Baylor?
Love his arm. And the arm talent is what you know he has, and you know he needs to be developed because he's coming out of a Baylor offense where you're throwing a lot of underneath stuff and letting the receivers do the damage in the open field, spreading it out and making them be the focal point. And all Bryce Petty has to do is distribute the ball like a point guard. So I think when he comes into the NFL, he's going to have to be obviously in a developmental period for a year or two. But in a second round, maybe late first if somebody traded back in like they did with Bridgewater last year, you can't project him in a late first because nobody's going to take him there unless there's a trade. So I think maybe that, but probably second round. Same thing for Garrett Grace in Colorado State. But there's no question Petty, of all the quarterbacks in this draft, has the strongest arm. He's also, as you said, a great kid. He's going to work. He's going to be a sponge. And as a second-round pick, he may end up in 3 years being the best of this group. He could be better than Winston. He could be better than Mariota if he settles into the right team and he's coached properly in the right system.
You've been breaking down the draft for ESPN since the 1920s. The one thing I feel like has changed with the draft for me over the last 15 years is how quarterbacks are evaluated. And I think each year we get a little smarter with that, and we think like, all right, it's not just about he looks the raw tools. It's a charisma position. It's an intangibles position. Maturity. It's an intelligence position. Yeah. It's a chip on your shoulder because I didn't get drafted high enough position. How has that affected how you evaluate the draft?
Bill, I really think it's an it factor. And I said this to a lot of people who evaluated quarterbacks. It's a gut feel. It's not about the arm. It's not about, his numbers in college. It's not necessarily even about the system he comes out of because they're all throwing the ball all over the place. Pass-happy college, pass-happy NFL. It's about the studying the game, loving the game, and also getting the respect immediately from the teammates in that locker room or in that practice field. And that's why I think you look at character and beyond that, instincts for the position, instincts in the pocket. This is a 7-on-7 game now to a certain extent. So I think you look at it differently, but still the same thing applies. Who's going to work the hardest? I told Colin this, the worst pro day I can ever remember hearing from the NFL was Peyton Manning. Did that mean anything? No. The best pro day was Jamarcus Russell. Did that mean anything? No. So when you hear about pro days, throw them out the window. When you look at the character of a kid, in addition to the production, he needs talent. If he has all that, he's a first-round pick, and he's a great player. And some of these guys slide through the cracks, obviously, every year.
Mel Kiper Jr., next draft projection will be released tomorrow. I am bizarrely fascinated by those. Draft Talk brought to you by the new Ford Transit, built Ford tough. You pass with flying colors, Mel. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Take care, guys. Enjoyed it, man.
All right, I have a really good question for you. Two. One of them is going to be, I really can't wait for the answer. It's very exciting for me.
Is this a tease?
That's what I do for a living, Bill.
Good tease. Why don't you do that? Coming up next, I'll tell you one way you can live 10 years longer.
All right, that too. Next, The Herd.
You're in The Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
All right, welcome back to Herd on ESPN Radio. My friend Bill Simmons, Grantland Basketball Hour. He's created the mega site, Grantland.com. He is befriending Ryan Russillo, which is not worth right now. I'd have to go into deep detail about how I resent that, and I'm discouraged by that relationship.
You guys are my favorite frenemies at ESPN.
I was discouraged when LeBron said one of his best friends was Carmelo. I was discouraged by that. I'm discouraged because Russillo is rough on me, and we have all sorts of personal baggage. All right.
Russillo's the guy you'd want in a dark alley if you could pick any ESPN talent.
Yeah, he lifts weights all day.
He's strong. He's physical. He's under 40.
He's like,
and he grew up on the East Coast.
He's angry.
He's rough and tumble.
ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Call or click today. All right, two things. You have had you and Oklahoma City fans battle on Twitter. It's you fight because you. Let's first talk about what is happening in Oklahoma City in regards to media. It's almost a college town.
Yeah. The Thunder are the only game in town. The media, I think, have to be. We did a really good piece about this on Grantland.
Oh no, Brian Curtis.
Yeah,
I've talked about it for 3 days.
The access and all that stuff, and it really is like a college town. Is a good way to put it. It's like they're basically Syracuse. You know, like how I'm sure how like the Syracuse people are afraid to go after Jim Boeheim. You have that situation in OKC.
You'll lose access to Russell and Kevin Durant.
Right. So you know the local newspaper wrote a piece about the Harden trade on Sunday, which I've stopped talking about. I mean, it's over. He's an MVP candidate. It was a terrible trade. There's nothing else to say. And they wrote this piece that basically didn't have – there's been this revisionist history. They had to trade him. They couldn't afford him. It's
only
like
$5 million difference of opinion, right?
He was in year 4 of his contract. He was actually – his value that year, they just made the finals. I think he was like $5.4 million for that season.
Yeah.
And they couldn't agree on contract terms. They offered him 54. He wanted 60. He knew there were 10 teams ready to overpay for him in the market or pay properly for him, whatever. And they decided they came to a standstill. And then they just traded him.
And they misjudged his talent.
Well, they misjudged a couple of things. One is they just should have kept him and dealt with it the next summer. I think they really liked the trade they made. I think that was part of it. I think they thought Kevin Martin could replace his points. I think they liked Jeremy Lamb, and they liked the picks they got. But now there's been this revisionist history of, well, they couldn't have afforded him. First of all, they could have afforded him that year. He was a great asset. Second, they could have amnestied Kendrick Perkins, who anyone who watched basketball knew that guy was done 4 years ago. And then third, the cap was going up because they just made this awesome deal, which everyone knew at the time that the deal that they made combined with the media rights deal that was coming, the cap and the luxury tax was going up. And they just misread it. Like, done. I've stopped talking about this for a while, but what's interesting
in the article, they brought it up again?
Yeah, but they didn't bring up the real reasons for the trade. It was like, well, here's why they did it. And we were talking about this during the break. I'm always amazed when revisionist history sets in. And usually it's a history pushed by the teams or people with agendas or whatever. And it's like, just go back and look at the actual facts.
They misjudged his talent. He's better than they thought he would be. And they could have kept him. And the truth is, you can make an argument in all sports.
Yeah.
Just eat a dirt sandwich contractually if you can win a title that year. Go ask John Stockton. Anytime a guy can help you win a title, and they were inches away.
Yeah.
You just eat a dirt sandwich contractually in that moment for a year if you have to. Because, like Darrelle Revis. If they don't win the title, maybe they make a push. But in the end, then once you win that title, Darrelle leaves and people go, Belichick knows what he's doing. Sam Presti now, if he had a title, but he doesn't, and he could have with that team.
Well, I think they overreacted because he didn't play well in the finals. But he's 22 years old. You know, he's going against LeBron, who's the best player in the league at his absolute apex at the time. He didn't have a good series. It was 5 games. He didn't play well. He was 22 when it happened. I just think the mistake that they made and why it's so interesting to me, I really think it was one of the seminal trades of the last 20 years. We should be talking about it because he's an MVP candidate, and they had him and Durant and Westbrook. But the mistake they made was just thinking almost like Belichick would think. Like Belichick likes to string things out, right? Mm-hmm. He's always about not just this year, but he never wants to sacrifice the future. He wants to be good every year.
Right.
I don't think a basketball team can do that. Like, just look at all the guys who get hurt year after year after year. And that window, man, you think that window's open, all of a sudden it slams.
The Lakers are
Derrick Rose, 2012. It's like, the Bulls.
In the NBA,
they're loaded. Derrick Rose hasn't played 30 straight games since 2012.
Enjoy it in the NBA because the window closes quickly. And
immediately.
The Lakers will – I've said this. The Lakers will not be – I think it's dire. I think they're a half decade away. They would need 2 or 3 things to go right. Okay.
Well, hold on. One more thing. The Celtics in 86. Do we have to go?
No. Well, in about a minute.
The Celtics in 86, right? Best team, in my opinion, of all time. They won 67 games. They cruised through the playoffs. They have the best player in the world, Larry Bird. They have a top 5 player, Kevin McHale. They have Parrish. They have DJ. They have Danny Ainge. They have Bill Walton. And they have the number 2 pick in the draft from Seattle, which is going to be either Brad Daugherty or Len Bias. If you just press pause in mid-June 1986, you would have said, they're going to win 6 more titles.
Yep.
This is done. They made 1 more finals. That was it. That whole run ended. I think the NBA is the one sport because there's so few players that matter and can affect things.
Get it when you can get it.
You can never trust the future, the long span, whatever. You're not building. Like, if it's there, you got to take it.
And players are more empowered. It's always been a players' league. They may just bail on you.
Right.
I mean, like these days, they'll just go.
You need so much luck. You need injury in the NBA. You need injury luck. You need trade luck. Like the Warriors almost traded Stephen Curry with the year they drafted him. They almost traded him for Andrew Bogut. They decided to trade Monte.
Almost traded Klay Thompson a year ago.
They almost traded Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. Steve Kerr almost went to the Knicks. Like, I'm convinced the NBA comes down to luck more than just about any other sport. It just feels like lottery luck, injury luck, trade luck, hiring luck. It's amazing.
Bill Simmons joining us. Okay, we're going to come back with something I have to talk to you about. That is, it was an interesting moment in my life last night, and I want to see if you ever dealt with anything quite like that.
Colin Cowherd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Bill Simmons has been joining me for the hour. Okay, yesterday I had a very uncomfortable moment. I ran into Andy Dalton, who I've been very critical of. He was the most gracious, nice, earnest, genuine guy, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to bash him anymore. I'm done with it. And it was weird because I'm not one of these guys. I always talk on the air like I'm going to see you face to face. So I'm not a guy that backs off. When I had T.O. on my show, I called him a wreck. You know, I'm not going to be that guy. But I felt bad because I'm not a mean guy, and Andy Dalton is swell. He's like 1950 Iowa swell. Have you ever had a moment face-to-face with either a rival or an adversary or an athlete you whacked?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's above the belt, I think it's a little bit of a different interaction because we have a job too. Like, we're supposed to be objective and talk about athletes and teams and GMs. I guess like GMs are probably the most awkward, right?
Yeah. Like, you've been tough on Dunleavy.
Yeah, but my thing is when I meet people, I'm always friendly and have conversations and whatever. I think the most awkward one I had, an NBA owner I won't name, it was a year and a half ago, comes up to me. I'm in a hotel lobby. We're waiting to go to this college doubleheader. It was that ESPN college doubleheader they have. It was in Chicago.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. This owner comes up and goes, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm the guy you've been a dick to the last 5-6 years." That was his opener. So I stood up. I was like, "Hey, how are you?" And it was good. He handled it like owners are the most, because owners have huge egos.
Oh.
They're never used to anybody coming at them because they've been successful all their lives, or they've been handed money.
Yeah.
They control. They're ordering people around. So when anyone criticizes them, they take it really personally. But I think the most interesting one, a director of a movie that I won't name. I was at a bar, and it was a Boston area guy, and I had not liked the movie, and I'd skewered it. And he came up to me.
Yeah, we're on live radio, so.
Yeah, he came up to me, and he was stink-eyeing me as we were in a group talking. I'm like, this guy read whatever.
Did you know who he was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he ended up pulling me aside, and we had this 15-minute debate about what I wrote. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't like the movie. I thought you guys did it bad. We're just going back and forth, and it was weird. Like, he was almost trying to change my opinion of it. And if you knew the movie, it was unchangeable.
By the way, Mark Wahlberg, who I like, was in The Gambler, and my wife watched it on the way out and said it was no good, and I like him. I watched Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, which is dark and
not sure why they made that movie, but he's good in it.
He's terrific. It's not. I didn't think of it as a great movie. I thought it was great acting. I couldn't take my eyes off Carell. I couldn't take my eyes off him.
What is the right video on demand price for you?
We get into this discussion all the
time.
Like
if Fast Furious 7 was just on demand this weekend, and it was like the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, it was $99.99 for Fast and Furious 7.
No.
$49.99
for a movie?
Yeah. You get 2+ hours. You don't have to go to the theater. You don't have to get a babysitter. You don't have to get parking. I feel like $49.99 would have been fair for Fast and Furious 7.
Argo, I would have paid $30.
Argo?
It's one of my top 5 of all time. I thought it was brilliant.
Would you go $15 for basically blind any Liam Neeson movie? You just get the Liam Neeson package. It's $15 every time. Taken 3, whatever movie where he's chasing somebody.
I'm a huge Tom Hanks fan.
So you go blind Tom Hanks package?
I'll go virtually any Tom Hanks movie. I am a huge Ed Norton fan, huge Morgan Freeman fan. Not that I don't like Pacino and De Niro, but they're almost caricatures. There's a pro wrestling thing. They're playing
80s.
They're playing to the gimmick now.
Yeah.
Like, I find Ed Norton, William H. Macy is never. You ever watch The Cooler? I love The Cooler. That's one of my. There's
Like The Cooler.
5 movies in my. I got this.
Do you like any actors under 35?
Oh yes.
Have you named all the middle-aged actors yet?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
I love Paul Rudd.
Mid-40s.
Is he?
Yeah.
I like Paul Rudd. He's good friends with Joe Buck, which is odd and random, but he is.
There's like a whole St. Louis Mafia thing going on with him and John Hamm and Joe Buck. And
Not as big a fan as John Hamm as everybody else.
Oh.
He's fine.
What about Mad Men?
A little overstated. I think House of Cards is the best show since The Sopranos. My 3 favorite shows ever.
That was a hot take. House of Cards.
You don't like House of Cards?
It's all right.
Oh, boy. There's 3 shows. There's 3.
Game of Thrones is the best show.
I can't. Is that Sorcerers? What's happening there?
No, see, I'm with you. I never wanted to go in the forest, and my staff was trying to get me to watch it.
It's a forest movie?
No, Game of Thrones is unbelievable.
Are there goblins?
No, you just watch Game of Thrones.
Daggers and stuff.
Nobody's ever watched Game of Thrones and said, I wish I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
3 best shows of my life. Bill Carter of the New York Times came on my show and said Sopranos.
He's a good guest.
He's a great. I get him on about once a year. Sopranos, Curb Your Enthusiasm, the early years of Entourage, I binge watch, and I think House of Cards is that.
You just threw Entourage in the group of those other shows?
It's not as good.
I just blacked out for a second.
No.
Where's The Wire on this list? The Wire is the best American TV show ever produced.
Oh God, you and Whitlock.
It's a fact. It's not even an opinion.
It's a fact.
It's a fact. The Wire is the most important, best show of all time.
Yeah, I'm a little late to it.
Sopranos is a little dated now. You watch Sopranos now, a couple of those early, it's a little dated. I'm with you on Curb. I think it's the most interesting comedy we've ever produced.
I liked it more than Seinfeld.
Me too.
Yeah, I liked it more than Seinfeld.
But Seinfeld was a bigger and more important show.
Yeah, by the way, should be noted.
Yeah.
Larry David listens to the show regularly.
Interesting. He's made $1 kajillion, and I mean, he's just a huge sports fan. He follows stuff.
Well, no, he follows me.
He plays golf.
Does he really?
And he follows sports.
Yeah,
That's his life. He's got a great life. Does some plays occasionally.
ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Call or click today. Bill Simmons, Grantland Basketball Hour.
Hey, we have 2.
Okay, I've got 1 minute left. Whatever you got. Give me something good.
Next Thursday night, next Friday night, we got 2-part playoff preview. Very excited about it because there's no games.
Who's winning the West?
ESPN. The Spurs are coming. See, that's a Game of Thrones reference. The Spurs are coming.
I'm kind of over it.
The Golden State Spurs is going to be one of the all-timers if that happens.
Give me your upset in the playoffs, either side, East or West. You don't give Memphis.
Celtics Hawks.
Oh, come on.
Paul Millsap's injured shoulder. Couple Hawks on TMZ last night. President Brad Stevens.
Let me just say this. All these draft picks, and you get Jared Sullinger and Avery Bradley. Trade them and get players. You can't win any big games with Avery Bradley and Jared Sullinger. That Kelly Olynyk or whatever, that's not going to win you big game. Trade. You got 38 picks. Get a player. What are the Patriots without Brady? Get a star.
We're building assets. I will say this. I don't think there's going to be any first-round upsets, but I guarantee you that Golden State would much rather see OKC than New Orleans in round 1. They'll beat New Orleans, but that's a scary team, and they tried to beat New Orleans last night and couldn't do it.
Bill Simmons, ladies and gentlemen, how great were you? Don't leave me hanging.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great.
It was great for us, sir.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast. Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. Last season, the Pirates reached the postseason for the 2nd consecutive season, only to be sent home early after losing the wild card. Will they return for the 3rd straight year? This weekend they face the Cubs, who have plans to make their first postseason berth since 2008. The Cubs and Pirates. The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. 2 of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.